Usually my day starts almost every day starts with me identifying the top three problems to solve for the day, keep
Mm,
everything else in the secondary list, and I
mm,
go from there. So when I say that identifying the most important thing to work on, that's what I mean basically prioritization.
mm.
And how do I prioritize? I think it's just effort versus impact and sometimes urgency.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Anyreach Roundtable, where we explore how AI is transforming the way we work. I'm your host, Richard Lin, CEO of Anyreach, and today's guest is Shyam, our AI product manager here at Anyreach for our Meet the Team series. Shyam, it's great to have you here.
Hey Rich, nice to be here. Thanks.
Absolutely, thanks for jumping on. Just so for our audience to get a little bit of a background, about who you are, can you maybe share about your journey, your experience, your career, just so they can get to know you better?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have a mechanical engineering background actually. I graduated with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and I worked as a manufacturing engineer as well. But it's interesting that I started working and I realized that this is not something that is really something that I want to do for the rest of my life. So I was exploring career options. I did my undergrad in India and then moved to the US to get some more exposure in fields like computer engineering and data science. And while studying for my master's degree in industrial engineering, I did some internships related to data science and analytics. So I transitioned my career from mechanical and manufacturing engineering to data and analytics. And from there, I worked as an analyst in different capacities in a lot of different companies in the US. From there, I became a product manager, worked as a product manager at Remedico. It was a Bangalore based startup in India, and then at Nutrisense for a few years. And then I came across AI and started at Anyreach as an AI product manager. So it's been a really long journey across a lot of different types of roles and different types of responsibilities.
Got it. Got it. Thanks for sharing that. And it's interesting because as a PM, the general kind of consensus is PMs kind of come from all walks of life, and you've had a pretty diverse career path from manufacturing engineer at Tesla, you were at Wayfair, now you're doing voice AI. What's been a common thread in learning, and how have those kind of experiences influenced your way of thinking about product?
Right. So I think a common thread across all these roles have been that you need to keep on learning, first of all.
Mm,
Learning never stops. In whatever company you join, whether it's in the same industry or in a new industry, there is always going to be new stuff to learn. There is always going to be evolution in technology that you will need to be updated on and you will
mm,
need to be good at it. So, learning is something that is a common thread that has been in my career from the very beginning. And I think the second thing that I've seen is that uh, identifying problems and no
mm,
matter what the problem is, figuring out a solution to that problem is very important. It doesn't matter whether you are a manufacturing engineer or an AI product manager, you will need to really be able to understand the actual problem and be able to somehow figure out a solution. It could be in a structured manner. Sometimes there won't be any structure. You will just need to figure it out in some way. So, having that problem first mindset and being able to find solution in a good or a scrappy manner doesn't matter. Um,
mm.
it's very important.
Yeah. And one thing I really appreciate about how you approach, product and work is you really bring a lot of the experience you had in data and engineering and like first principles and really trying to, as you mentioned, breaking down the problem, like what are we actually solving? Because I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong, where, folks building product end up just going straight to a solution, not really defining, okay, what is the problem and what is the low hanging fruit here that we can approach to solve that for your customers. So that's one thing I've always appreciated about how you think, the mental models you have, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that you've always mentioned is that you're always looking for the most impactful way to do kind of a solution, ideally in the quickest way possible. What does that look like for you in practice?
Yeah, so I think there's always a lot of things going around, not just as a product manager, but generally in life or in any role at any company that you are in. And it's really important to prioritize. Usually, my day starts every day, almost every day starts with me identifying the top three problems to solve for the day, keep everything else in the secondary list, and I go from there. So when I say that identifying the most important thing to work on, that's what I mean basically prioritization. And how do I prioritize? I think it's just effort versus impact and sometimes urgency. So there are a lot of different factors, a lot of different frameworks that people use to do prioritization, but just doing prioritization and having some sort of organization around it is very important.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think we can all learn. You don't have to just be in product to know that prioritizing what's the most impactful and needle moving is absolutely key to make the most impact. One of the little things I do is, yeah, like you mentioned, every morning, kind of looking down your list, and that list is pretty much like never ending. But using different frameworks like RICE, right? If you're going to approach a problem, what's the reach, what's the impact, what's the confidence with the data you have that it will make that impact, and then the total amount of effort, and then hopefully getting a math formula out of it, so okay, this is a P1, a P3 type of priority. I also use my calendar as my to-do list, if you will. So my calendar is always pretty nasty, right? But it helps kind of time box, if I'm going to work on important work, when am I going to do it? And, helps me keep track rather than create another whole task list, right?
Yep.
And so you've kind of had your journey working at large companies all the way down to startups. And obviously, with the trend of AI, the way startups are approaching work, roles, responsibilities are quite changing with the times. How are you thinking about this as a PM with a lot of the new AI technologies, tools, and so forth? And how are you incorporating that into your day to day?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. As I said, you have to have a learning mindset that it's a fact that technology is going to evolve. And if you want to work in technology, you will have to evolve with it. Um, I I think one thing that helps me stay on top of all those things is that I really love technology. I'm very curious about a lot of things that I work on, and fortunately for me, even in this company and my previous roles, the people that I've worked with, they have always been really smart, really up for, really motivated basically. Uh, that kind of an environment has helped me a lot in staying on my toes and staying motivated and excited to learn new things. I don't really follow a specific format for learning new things or staying on top of technology or something like that. Um, I have set up like newsletters, and I have some channels that I follow on YouTube and some blogs that I read, through which I keep on gathering information and I talk to people, my colleagues. It's a great source of information, but it's very scattered. The knowledge base or the knowledge sources that I have, they are pretty scattered. But I think it's a good thing. It keeps on, my knowledge sources also keep on evolving, and it I think that's a good thing because if they evolve, I would keep on getting new suggestions, recommendations on what I need to read next, what I need to learn next. So yeah, I think that is what I do. I be curious, be around the right people, and try to not fall behind.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I think when you think about it from like a growth perspective, like curiosity is so huge. You know, it's not something that you can just like program. Curiosity, like it needs to be embedded into a person. And the more curious you are, and I think I read a study where if your kid asks you why a lot in the early stages, they actually turn out to be pretty successful because they're always trying to figure out how things work. um, and we should never lose that mindset, right? As even as we get older and mature. And I've kind of seen your curiosity and implementation of new technologies with some of our clients. There's been projects where a client requests something that's somewhat of a one-off request, and one of the things I try to embed in our product team is like never do one-off stuff. Try to figure out if the thing we're doing can actually be replicated as a one-to-many opportunity. Like one widget can scale to multiple different customers, and you can generate kind of a new use case. And more recently, there was kind of a request from a customer asking to clone their customers' websites so they can sell like agentic AI better. And you actually created a website where they can go in and just click a button and clone it. So you built like this full stack application using some of these AI native tools. Can you maybe talk about that specific request problem, and then how you approach that solution, and then ultimately what was the end result?
Yeah, absolutely. So, exactly as you said, the request from our client was to clone a bunch of websites and put our chatbot in it, which could trigger a call to our voice AI agent. And it seemed very straightforward. It can be done. It's not hard, but it's a lot of repetition. So when the task came to me, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna create manually five different or six different websites.
Right.
Let me create a system to just do it once and replicate. Initially, I thought it could be a workflow, honestly, that something like Zapier could be used to just put in three or four steps, and a website could be created one after the other every time the workflow gets triggered. But then I realized that actually even that is not required now with these AI prototyping tools like Lovable and Cursor. This is so easy. If you want to really scale something, just build an app yourself. And I think there is where this AI innovation is coming really handy. That initially when you wanted to build an app for a use case, building that app itself was really hard. It required a lot of resources and a lot of research. Now that's no longer the case. You can prototype an app or a website very quickly. So I used Lovable to build an app first that could clone a website from just a URL and some description that the large language model can take, and some photos, of course, so it would know what kind of UI to give to the front page. Um, and yeah, the app was built. It took some testing and some iterations, but the cloning product was finished, and it saved a lot of time for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's pretty awesome because that project that you delivered on, it was actually instrumental for one of our clients to close several pilots because they were essentially going out into market. They were a SaaS company, but they wanted to embed our AI voice or agentic AI experience into kind of their product offering, but they needed some sort of like marketing visuals to sell their existing clients, and they had like 250 enterprise clients. And so, just in that tool alone, it was just so easy for the CEO of that company and their sales team to say, "Hey, click a button, boom, here's what it can look like." And they've already closed some pretty large pilots using that tool that you built. So, super cool. So, Sham, as you kind of think about how AI is impacting multiple different roles in organizations, especially around product, and by product, I mean like product managers, product marketing, UI, UX designers, engineering, even full stack. How do you see kind of what you've done in product evolving and potentially changing kind of the wake of AI?
Sorry, Rich, can you repeat that? How what I did in product changing the way?
Yeah, like how traditionally we've done product, right? And then now with kind of AI native capabilities, how these roles are kind of merging together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI has definitely significantly merged the product and engineering roles, and it is still ongoing, the transition, but it is happening for good. One of the key differences that AI tools have made for the product team is that AI prototyping has become extremely easy and very accurate as well. Um, for example, just earlier this week, I was developing a prototype, AI prototype for the native workflows that we are developing for our voice agents platform. Traditionally, we would have done some wireframes, passed it to engineering and design, and brainstormed on the solution. It would have taken a lot of back and forth, a lot of confusion, because in product development, there are a lot of stakeholders involved, and it requires alignment across all these stakeholders. But with AI prototyping now, I can actually create, I as a product manager can actually create very accurate prototypes to portray the functionality that I envision. And that can be passed on to the engineering team so that they can really understand what I'm trying to build for my customers. Um, and it eliminates all the confusion. Once engineering is aligned on the core components and the user flow that is required, they can start building the backend while product can then focus on the UI UX aspects of things. So this way, using AI prototyping tools, it has been a really great thing that product managers can actually build the initial versions of the live products, and then engineering can take over and build the and link it to the infrastructure, build the backend that is required. A lot of people can save a lot of time, all the product managers, developers, and designers this way. Um, One of the key benefits of this thing is that product managers are closest to customers. They understand problems really well, and through AI prototypes, they can transfer those problems directly to the engineering team without confusion, without back and forth. And high fidelity designs are only prioritized when everyone agrees on the functionality aspect of things. So it significantly reduces a lot of time that goes into design and general alignment in between product design and engineering.
Got it, got it. And you know, one of the things that we're hearing a lot is that, you know, AI has like its limitations. And obviously things are improving pretty rapidly and things are getting better. But what are some of the challenges that you're seeing kind of utilizing these different AI tools? You mentioned like Lovable, Cursor, and so on and so forth. Because we know it's not a perfect world. There's going to be some issues. Kind of what are you seeing in your day-to-day workflow?
Yeah, in my day-to-day workflows, AI still mess up. Definitely, it's very important to review AI's output, especially if it is something that has big impact, like a product that you are trying to deliver to end customers, or as simple as the draft that you want to send to a client for review. So it's really important that we review the AI's output. um, we cannot, AI is amazing, but we cannot function on autopilot yet. Constant observation is required. So I think that is the biggest limitation of AI, that it can mess up, it can hallucinate. um, I think one more limitation is that AI tools, just knowing how to use the AI tool alone is not enough. You also need to understand the things around it. For example, when I started about 6, 7 months ago, late last year, I started with AI prototyping. I was just building some apps for fun, just exploring the tools, Lovable, Bolt, and Cursor, and all. And I realized that okay, I can do the biggest job here is to build the app, which can be done by these tools, but I still need to understand how to host my front end and back end, and how to use GitHub for version controlling, how to use different libraries to achieve the exact UI that I'm trying to achieve. So all that knowledge and control is necessary to guide AI in the right direction. Complete autopilot, it can work, but it won't get you to a good end product.
Right, right. Yeah, and we're hearing that a lot where you have to essentially kind of evolve your mindset to manage AI. You can't just be kind of passive and just let it do its course and just expect, hey, I'm not even gonna look at the output. I'm not gonna check the work. I'm just gonna say it's good, right? And really understanding your domain and there's considerations around kind of your task around AI. Because if you don't understand your role, you're not really going to understand if the output is good, right, from AI. And so as you kind of think about, obviously you mentioned some challenges, some limitations. What do you think everyone is getting wrong about AI? Threw you a little curveball.
Yeah, I think I think what everyone is. I've heard this a lot. I've read this a lot that uh, AI is can do everything now, and like you need to get into AI, whatever it means, right now to take the most advantage out of it. I think that's not true. It's barely getting started, and it's still super early days. Language models are still not perfect. All the apps like ChatGPT and all, they're still not multimodal. They're still like one language model only like focuses on either text or image or video or voice. So multimodality functionalities are still out there. People are figuring it out how to achieve it. MCP is like brand new. It just like ChatGPT and Claude or Anthropic just announced major changes to MCP this month. So there's so much happening, and we are not even close to where we want to be in terms of reaching, let's say, AGI. So I think there is a huge opportunity pool, and the capabilities. I think we cannot even imagine the capabilities that AI has to offer. So people are getting wrong that whatever it is right now, just use it and build something in a scrappy way and launch it. Uh, there is still a lot of patience required and a lot of ongoing learning, and a mindset is required where still there's a long way to go. And as research keeps on building up, better language models keep on coming around, we can do even more with it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a really interesting point. Kind of switching gears, have you recently come across any kind of AI tool or application of AI? And it doesn't have to be work related; it can also be kind of like fun meme perspective that really kind of piqued your interest, and you're like, man, that's a really interesting application of AI. And can you tell us what that is?
Um, I think, yeah, recently I have come across a couple of things. Let me tell you about the web agents first. So, this came from a project that I was working on at Anyreach in my early days here. So, I was working on building integrations, and I was figuring out how to integrate our platform with different third party apps. And I was figuring out problems that, hey, okay, not all the third party apps have public APIs. A lot of third party apps have like they don't either have public APIs, or some apps don't even have like API endpoints. For example, a healthcare product might not at all have an API endpoint uh, for data privacy concerns. So how do we generate agentic workflows for these kind of tools,
Mm.
and how do we serve these kind of customers. It's a really big market, and we don't want to miss these opportunities. And that's where I came across this thing called web agents, which is basically which can connect with which can operate on top of any digital platform without really needing to be integrated with it. And the AI understands exactly what to click in what scenario, what data to input, and it just gets the work done. It looks kind of crappy, but it can be done pretty accurately again and
Mm.
again in an automated manner. So that is, I think, a very quirky AI application that I found out about after joining Anyreach. And one of the other things is uh, MCP, of course.
Mm.
So while figuring out the problems with integrations, we realized that our voice AI agents will need to um, execute tasks while being on a call with customers. So how to achieve that? And that's where we explored MCP and the in-call function calling aspect of agentic workflows. And that was an eye-opener. We are still working on implementing it, and I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I think you bring up really two interesting things around like kind of web browser agents and MCPs. It's kind of uncanny when you see a web agent doing the job. It's almost like a ghost on a computer, just like clicking through your screen, and you're like, "Oh snap! Did someone hack my computer?" But it's pretty amazing that you can have an agent that will, use vision to look through every single click, every single screen, define the pixels. It's a lot of compute, but it does circumvent the need for an API, right? Because like a human, how they log into a device, authenticate through their account, and then eventually go do that task and job on any sort of platform that's accessible via the browser. It is pretty uncanny to see that. And then on the flip side, MCP for audience, if you guys aren't familiar, it is Model Context Protocol, which was a protocol that was invented by Anthropic, I believe a couple months back. But just to put a little bit more meat on the bones, imagine if you can have a Chat GPT UI on top of any app that you use. So, for instance, you can natural prompt, I want my Figma to design, a mobile application for food delivery. Just one sentence, right? Click enter. It builds all that stuff within the Figma workspace, which is pretty wild if you think about it. So you don't need to tie all these connectors. You don't need to define all this workflow logic. It goes straight from prompt to an actual outcome within any sort of your existing workflow. So really exciting stuff that are happening kind of in that space. And, Shyam, it's great to hear that you're obviously exploring it and getting your own excitement. I kind of joke around. I actually just had another podcast with a marketer where a fun AI application that I saw was, I don't know if you remember the viral trend of like 100 men versus one gorilla. I know you saw
I
that,
did.
right? And everyone's like having a massive debate, like, man, if the first like 20 humans or men, like, jump on the gorilla and then the other ones go from behind its back and maybe they can choke it out and then they can beat the gorilla. And people are like, no, no, a gorilla is like super strong. It's actually going to like, completely destroy 100 people. But I found this really funny thing on Twitter where people were using, I think, VO3, one of Google's video models, and they actually created like a photorealistic 3D like YouTube short, like a 15 30-second video where they had a gorilla speaking on a podcast, and he's being interviewed. It's like, man, how would you actually take out like 100 men? And this gorilla's like, man, I don't know why they're always trying to come after us, but this is how I would approach it. I was like, that's hella funny, right? They like took this one-liner meme into like an actual like multimodality joke, right? Both video and audio, and it's just funny seeing a gorilla talking on a podcast. And so as you kind of think about AI trends kind of in the next 3 to 5 years, what do you think is going to be changing? What do you think is coming? What gets you excited?
I think one of the things that is definitely going to change is the AI, device native AI. So most of the AI lives on cloud right now. The cloud computing cost is a lot today. I think our mobile phones, laptops, Apple Watches, these things are going to start having micro LLMs within them. It will cost much less, can provide pretty much the same output, at least can do the get the job done, while also handling the privacy issues. A lot of people are very scared of data being exposed everywhere, and this can actually solve that concern as well. So that's one thing. Another thing I think is multimodal language models. So I think majority of applications today focus on one modality, either text or videos or images or something else, voice. But I think in future there will be language models which can excel at both text and voice and videos and images. So one application I think would be able to do much more compared to you needing to move between ChatGPT and Sora to brainstorm for a video and creating that video on Sora, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up these two really interesting trends. I think local micro LLMs that live on metal, right? Whether it's the CPU or the GPU, I think we're seeing this with, at least this was Apple's vision with Apple Intelligence. They published a paper of like very small parameter models that actually live on device. So it's not being computed in the cloud, right? And if folks don't know, when you're talking to ChatGPT, it's not like you're talking to your computer, right? You're typing it in, but then that data gets sent over to their servers. They compute, they send back the kind of answer. But living on device, as you mentioned, would allow less compute intense kind of operations.
Less
It's
latency.
less latency, it's more accurate, and so forth. And I thought Apple's architecture was pretty interesting. They just didn't execute it well, where they had these micro LLMs all across their new devices, and essentially like your email has an LLM, your calendar has an LLM, and so as you're talking to Apple Intelligence, it's able to actually start mapping all these different applications and be able to do the compute and the reasoning and the AI behind it. So you get kind of a more comprehensive, holistic view on device, which is super cool. But yeah, I mean, I think, as we kind of think about AI trends and where things are headed, it's definitely going to be pretty game changing, both from like a hardware and software perspective. And it's super exciting that you're kind of seeing that trend as well. So obviously Anyreach is only currently in a digital space, and we know there's like this whole new trend of like physical AI with robotics, drones, and things like that. Unfortunately, we're not there yet, but perhaps someday, when robots are starting to talk, they'll be using Anyreach's voice models.
Absolutely.
But all right, awesome. Well, Shyam, appreciate you jumping on Anyreach Roundtable. I'm sure our audience is really going to appreciate your perspective on product and how you're kind of wielding the amazing kind of technologies that AI is delivering as of today and even into the future. Appreciate you having being on our podcast, and thanks again for joining.
It was great being here, Rich.
All
Thanks a
right,
lot.
thanks, Shyam.